course, it's the guest anchor bit. We have Dr. Christian Turner, who's a British High Commissioner to Kenya. It's great to have you again.
Very good to be here, Betty. Thank you.
Great. So I want us to start with a story that we just highlighted. A lot of excitement in the tourism sector because of the lifting of the travel advisory. What led to this? Why now?
Well, there's a couple of things I think are misunderstood about these advisories. First of all, there was never any universal ban against Kenya. It was against a very specific part of the country. And that advisory was based on one thing and one thing alone, which was a security assessment. It wasn't political, it wasn't economic, it was purely based on the assessment of the security situation.
Okay, and maybe something also to add on right now. Why I say why now is because just a few days ago we had an attack in Baure, and you know, the question is, that was an attack by the Al-Shabaab. It was still in the coastal region. So why this lifting of this advisory now?
So there's no link to Baure specifically, and I think you saw condolences to the KDF who lost their lives, and enormously impressed by the way in which KDF responded to that incident. But no, more broadly, it's about an assessment over the progress which the Inspector General was just speaking about, that the security apparatus have made in increasing the resilience and security in that part of the coast. And I myself went to Mombasa last week. I met with many of his security colleagues, talked about the situation, talked to people on the ground, met the tourism players, met the governor and his people, and tried to understand better, really, for myself, what was going on. And on the basis of that, and a broader security assessment we made, we felt it was the right time to lift that advisory for that part of the coast.
And I like that you said that part of the coast. What happens to Malindi and Lamu? Is there any security concern on those two particular areas?
So the British government still advises against all but essential travel to Lamu and Malindi, the Malindi and north, and the border with Somalia.
Is there a specific reason?
Well, that is because of the threat we think there are to British nationals there. But I want to emphasize, Betty, that the rest of the country isn't touched. So I'm interested that there was an interview there with a gentleman from Nakuru. There's never been an advisory against Nakuru, nor the Masai Mara, where I was a few weeks ago, nor the safari circuit. And I should stress that this is how we do it all over the world.
So it's not just Kenya?
It's not just Kenya. Okay. And I know this it has been a very difficult time for Kenya. But we have issued advisories in the last year against France, after the Charlie Hebdo attacks in Paris, against the US, after the Baltimore riots. We've done it against Egypt, against India, against Thailand. This is how the system works, and we do it with many other close friends and allies like Kenya.
All right, let's talk about that incident that I mentioned earlier, about the attack in Baure. You know, there was a British national. Of course, investigations are still ongoing on the DNA and everything, but you know, it's assumed that it was a British national who was part of that attack, and we're seeing that, you know, there are very many British nationals who are being linked with terrorism. What is your thinking on that?
Well, if it is confirmed that it's a British national, I think it proves exactly what we've been saying, and what the President has been saying. This is a shared threat. If a young British man from Buckinghamshire is able to travel to Somalia and take up with this ideology, it shows that that in effect it is an interconnected and global problem that Kenya is part of. So it's of a shared threat, there must be a shared solution. That is exactly why we have to act together to respond, to protect against this very, very complex problem of radicalization.
And talking about radicalization, because I remember watching an interview where the mother to the slain militant was saying that, you know, it could have been neighbors or a group of people who were, you know, sending the wrong message about, you know, Islam, and, you know, radicalizing the youth there. So is there anything that the UK government is doing in particular to kind of like curb this situation? Because we're really hearing a lot of even young girls who are, you know, ready to join the ISIS, to travel to these countries. Is there anything that the government is actively doing to curb this?
So you're right, it's a problem we have faced for several years, and we have young kids really leaving the UK to go to Syria and elsewhere, as we've seen with, it looks like this gentleman who went to Somalia. And I don't think, Betty, anyone has got easy answers on this. We have some experience in the UK, other parts of the world, but there is no simple magic wand that is going to work out this problem. I think the only thing that is consistent is that the solutions are very local. They are very specific. Some of it's about about poverty, yes, but also some of the people who are taking up this ideology are quite educated. So there's no single answer, except for the fact that I think we have to look very, very locally and work with communities. We think we've learned the hard way, often by getting it wrong in places like Northern Ireland, that it's communities that beat terrorism.
All right.
And I felt this very much on the coast last week, talking to community representatives. We've got to work with them. The guy in the suit, like me from the ministry, is the worst person.
Why do you say that?
Well, because I'm a suit, and
yes,
I'm
you're a suit,
so you've got to have people you trust if we're going to have this conversation. So hardware is important, the stuff the IG is talking about, the way the KDF responded, but the software as well, and that's best done through the community.
All right. So earlier on, before you came in, we're still linking this. We were heavily talking about terrorism, but some of the questions that were coming in from our viewers. Is the UK doing enough to support Kenya in this fight? Because we're not really feeling it. Maybe we cannot see it, maybe we do not know about it, but from your end, is the UK really supporting Kenya in this fight?
So I think the not seeing it is the problem here. Our security assistance is a bit like an iceberg. The top of it is poking above the water, and a lot of it is lying beneath the waterline. For very good reasons, which you and the viewers will understand, we don't talk about a lot of that assistance. That is because it lets the bad guys know what we're doing, and it could compromise the lives of the people who are doing it. But let me assure you, there is an enormous amount that the UK is doing with Kenya on security. Some of it you've seen. So in the last year, what have I done? We've handed over bomb detection equipment at the airports, looked to strengthen the airport security at the perimeter and the practices. We've done work at the borders with the Royal Border Patrol Unit. I've worked with the IG and his people on training of the senior police. We have worked with the two militaries very closely together, the Navy, the infantry. Over 8 billion shillings a year we think our military relationship is worth. So there's an enormous amount going on. I'm just not shouting about it from the rooftops for very good reason.
And how can you rate the Kenyan government in terms of, securing Kenyans?
Well, the challenges that Kenya is facing in this area are as difficult as any government. I remember after Westgate, our top counter-terrorism police official came here, and she said, I am here because this could have happened in the UK. So there's no easy fixes here, and I think the leadership the government is showing its determination. For example, on the issue of radicalization, we have an international conference just next week where leaders are coming from all over Africa and the world to talk about how we counter violent extremism.
And talking about what you've mentioned, because it sounds so reconciliatory, it sounds very warm, and it's like there's no criticism sort of to speak about in terms of the government handling security issues. And it leads me to the question of in the past we used to see Western envoys who would really criticize the government when it comes to corruption, human rights abuse, but these days it's a bit more cozy and warm.
Now, you see, I think this is very funny, Betty, because I think many people would say in my time in Kenya, I've been quite an outspoken Balozi. I've been prepared to speak on issues where I think my government's interests are engaged. Harshly
criticizing what we saw in the past?
I think it's also true that the answers are not for outsiders to come like me to come and wag their fingers. The answers are going to come from within Kenya. And there are things. So what am I saying on security? Very clearly, I think it is important to work with communities, and yes, NGOs in communities are often the right people to do that if they're transparent, accountable and legal. Yes, I think the kind of coordination across government that the IG is talking about is important, and of course corruption is important. Corruption and security are intricately related. If a policeman at a roadblock is prepared to take 50 bob to let a car through, whether that's smuggling ivory or drugs or terrorists, that's bad for the country. So we are talking about these things. What I'm trying to say is that Britain is collaborative with Kenya in finding solutions rather than standing from outside and wagging its finger.
All right. And so your term is about to end.
I'm approaching the end.
You're approaching the end. That's the end of the year?
Yes, about the end of the year, probably.
So what is it that, is there something that you feel that you haven't done? Would you like more time?
I'd always like more time, so I can say Nyama Choma properly as well. We've got to get that right. No, look, it's been an amazing privilege in my my position to travel all across the country and to see so much of it. And in many ways, I'm at my happiest when I am out of the offices and the politics of the capital city, which is the same in every country, and meeting people, listening to their experiences, and actually seeing firsthand the affection that exists between our two countries.
Really? There's a lot of affection on the ground?
I think there is a lot of affection on the ground. You know, we have this deep history together. It's a shared history. Not all chapters of it are rosy. Some parts of it are difficult.
Exactly.
But this is not a country that is anti-UK in my experience.
Or we're not anti-Kenya, or they are not anti-Kenya.
No, no.
All right. And what is your biggest highlight from all these travels and, you know, meeting different people? The nice things first.
So let's do the nice things.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I think probably the best single thing I have done is climb Mount Kenya.
You've done that?
I've climbed Mount Kenya to
Lenana.
I didn't do the crazy ropes and ice picks. What do you mean everyone gets? Have you been to the top of Lenana?
Okay, well.
Okay, so not everyone.
It's
not
in
everyone.
Bucket list. All right, so that was a great
fantastic, and it's beautiful, and it's stunning, and every single visitor to this country.
And Kenyans too.
Yeah, and Kenyans too should go up
there.
And I think there is an important point for tourism here, as we're talking how to help the tourism industry recover from this difficult period. Repackage the model.
Exactly.
It's not just beach and safari. There is so much else to offer.
There's so much more. Any worse experience, any bad experience that you've had?
Bad experience.
Maybe
well,
not.
You've taught me a couple of very good phrases. So my favorite Kenyan phrase, all protocols duly observed, which is a great way of making sure you've not got into trouble.
Exactly.
And the other one, mine is brief.
Mine is brief.
If someone says to you, mine is brief, they're going to talk for about half an hour.
Exactly.
You know that's true. But
Mine is brief.
I will confess, probably not only my worst experience in Kenya, but the worst experience of my adult life. Running in the Lewa Marathon.
What? Why?
Why? I tell you why. It's our friend Bob Collymore again. He challenged me for a bet. You'll have to ask him who won.
I know who won.
You know who won?
Yes.
So what can I say? I ran the race. It was hot, it was exhausting, and everyone was faster than me.
But that's not a bad experience. That's a challenging experience.
It wasn't a challenge. No, it was
there.
a kid, barefoot, practically lapped me. It was going so fast. I got to the end, and I gave the worst interview of my career.
Really?
I was exhausted.
You were exhausted?
And one of your nice colleagues, I hope the tapes have been destroyed, puts a microphone in my face. How do you feel, Belozi? Well, I feel terrible. Did you enjoy the race? No, it was awful.
Let's stick to the nice things.
Exactly. Nice things are better.
Let's stick to So I promised to teach you some Swahili.
Yes.
Then we just need to go to read the intro. But
That's
before
good.
then, so you know, habari yako, mimi balozi, mabibi na mabwana.
Mabibi na mabwana.
Who says mabibi na mabwana?
A proper English gentleman like me.
Mabibi na mabwana. Okay, so so I want to teach you to say.
You're not going to teach me something that's not correct for television,
no,
are you?
No.
This is all very. This is a polite show.
I will lose my my job. All right, so I want to say nataka kurudi Kenya tena.
Nataka kurudi Kenya
Hata
tena.
kazi yangu ikiisha.
No, that's too fast.
Okay,
it's too haraka. Pole.
Pole, not pole. It's pole. Okay, so nataka kurudi Kenya.
Nataka kurudi Kenya. Nataka kurudi Kenya.
Hata kama kazi yangu inaisha.
No, you see, you're going too fast again.
Okay, all right. Let's just
this is going to take a long time for the viewers.
So nataka kurudi Kenya tena.
Nataka kurudi Kenya tena.
Hata
Can I say nitarudi tena?
Yeah, that's a better one. Nitarudi Kenya tena.
Nitarudi tena.
Nitarudi Kenya tena.
Tena. Turner tena.
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 Okay, fine. All right, come.
We have got to go now?